Welcome to The Nation Jandela with me, Jessie Chahal. Today we take a look at driving the nation forward through connectivity. And back in the studio with me is the chairman of MCMC, Dr. Fazlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. Welcome back, Dr. Fazul. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Jandela, of course, in its first phase, at this point of time, let's perhaps hear an update from you, Doctor. What's the latest progress with the Jandela Phase 1?
If you recall, I mentioned earlier that Jandela, we started the journey in September last year. Okay, we provided the first quarterly report at the end of the year, and we're happy to say that for the targets that we set for the industry and ourselves for the year of 2020, we did reasonably well. Where for premises passed, we achieved 120% of the target. For the upgraded sites, we achieved 100% of that. But for the new towers, we achieved 93%. Obviously, there's a bit of catch-up for the new towers. Now, for 2021, we set ourselves a target of 1.2 million fiber pass or premises passed. Okay, and we also have a target of rolling out work for 1,661 sites. These sites are actually non-commercial sites. These are sites located in the rural areas. Okay, and there will also be roughly about 937 sites within the commercial area. Okay, so in all, that's a pretty big target that we are driving for the year for this year.
That's right. In terms of deployment of infrastructure to improve mobile coverage nationwide, Doctor, you said 93%. 93%
was the target. No, let me just rephrase that. Today, the coverage for 4G last year was when we started the journey for Jandela, it was at 91.8. Okay, with the additional of 900 odd sites last year, we've been able to increase the coverage to about 92%. Okay, so there's still a huge 8% of the country that still requires for coverage to be provided for 4G.
And where are these particular sites or areas?
The sites for the 8%, they are largely located in the rural areas, okay, and in very remote areas. When we say remote, it is in reference to the population of being less than 19 people per square meter. Okay, so square kilometer, sorry. So hence, it's pretty remote. Okay, you'll probably need to take about 5 days travel just to get to the site.
But those plans are underway, and
the plans will be underway. Okay, because for the remote sites, there are a variety of technologies available for us to opt for. Okay, you've got the fixed line technology, which is a fiber, and then you have the mobile technology, which we all have in our pockets. Then there's also the technology of satellite. Okay, yes, satellite gives you a big footprint, but it's costly, and it doesn't give the level of speed that you would actually enjoy using the fiber technology. But for the remote sites, then we will actually opt for satellite as the technology for us to then provide the connectivity for people in the very remote area.
For the sites that you mentioned earlier that are non-commercial, where are some of these sites located, and what is the plan? Will these sites fall under Phase 2 in terms of connectivity?
They will all fall in Phase 1. Okay, let me just give you an example of what would be considered as a rural site. Okay? Let's take, say, the town of Kuala Pilah. Okay, maybe the town centre itself is in rural, but the moment you drive, say, 2 kilometres out, either which way, okay, then the rural part starts to kick in. Now, when we talk, in such an area, the population per density drops.
That's right.
Okay, and therefore, when population density drops, or economic activity is lesser, then that area would be considered as a non-commercial area. Okay?
Urban versus rural area,
yes, if you want,
put it in that.
Yeah, in that context, yes, in urban versus rural.
So based on that, how would you, or what is the plan to bridge the digital divide? Because that is an apparent problem as well as we look into areas of urban populations and rural population.
So to reduce the digital divide, there are many levels that you have to actually work on. At the infrastructure level would be one. Okay. Second would then be the means to access the infrastructure, and third would then be the way to use the technology. So those are various levels of digital divide now. Let's focus at the infrastructure per se. So the digital divide is actually reduced by making sure there is actually accessibility there. Okay, access to a network. Okay, so hence when you talk about Jendela Phase 1, we will then have to build out the network in those areas. Okay, and these areas would not be viable for commercial providers to come in. Okay, and therefore that has got to be funded by the government. And that fund comes from the Universal Service Provider Fund that sits with MCMC. Okay, so that's a contribution made by the telcos every year. That's 6% of their top line, and that money is then pooled and then spent to develop this infrastructure.
So we spoke about this last week, and we did talk about the involvement or how aggressive stakeholders are also, playing a part in terms of ensuring that Jendela's plan is one that is next to flawless. If not, if you could just give us a quick update on telco's involvement or achievements so far in terms of compliance.
The telcos are doing reasonably well. Okay, they're aggressive in doing it. Okay, but USP, you have to understand, it's not simply how aggressive can a telco be. Remember, this fund is provided by the telcos. It goes into a fund called the USP fund. The USP fund is governed by law, and therefore it's treated like a public fund. And for us to spend that fund, we need to go through the proper procurement procedures, okay, and we will do an open tender. So all that will take time, okay? And in fact, for this year, on the 2nd of February, that was the deadline for all interested licensees to register their interest in undertaking jobs in the 1,661 USP sites. Okay, and you have to also be mindful that these USP sites are not sites not with zero network. There is actually connectivity there, but you'll do find a lot of pockets of no coverage. So this additional work that we are now that we've tendered out, this will actually be meant to provide that coverage in the pockets that you currently experience today.
And also seems that when you set out these timelines, you're quite strict about adhering to them and ensuring that that these are definitely met and kept within that time frame.
Absolutely. Because if that we don't allow for extension of time, you always hear, extension of time, variation, no such thing. Okay, you come in with a plan, you stick by the plan, you stick by the deadline. Okay, if you don't deliver, instead of us extending the EOT, yes, we give you an extension of time, but there's a penalty that you've got to then pay.
Oh, that's right. Well, Doctor, they say if you don't have a plan, then you plan to fail. But you are definitely the man with that plan to, of course, take the nation forward through digital connectivity and more. We'll be right back after these messages.
Yati is a housewife in Kuala Lumpur. Having lived here for a long time, she misses her mother's nasi kuning. Can Yati use the latest smartphone and fast internet access to call her mother, who is in a remote area in Sabah? Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and broadband coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs, and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases. The 3G network will be gradually terminated as the 4G network is expanded to give Malaysians access to high-speed mobile lines throughout the country. Additionally, all fibre service providers will continue to lend their support by upgrading their network capacity and deploying more base stations to meet the increase in 4G and 5G traffic. This will pave the way for future technology adoptions such as wireless and fixed wireless access, VoLTE, and 5G to achieve the country's digital agenda. Thanks to improved infrastructure through Jendela, And by upgrading to a 4G smartphone, Yati is able to speak to her mother without any interruption. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economic progress.
You're watching The Nation with me, Jessie Chahal, The Nation Jendela, and of course, seated next to me is the chairman of MCMC, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. We are chatting and discussing about driving the nation forward through connectivity. That's our topic of conversation today. Doctor, we spoke a little bit about phase one of the Jendela mega project, if I could call it that. How do you think, in summary, what kind of improvement can the Rakyat expect from the implementation of a project of this scale?
Couple of things. For those who are within the area where we are expanding the fibre, therefore they can now get services, they can subscribe to services that uses fibre. What is the difference is that when you are subscribing to services provided by fibre, the availability of speeds is much higher than a mobile. Okay, so that's the first thing that you can experience. For those who are unfortunate that they may stay further out and fibre may not reach them, then they will probably have a single access of using mobile networks. When Jendela is completed with a 4G, you and I, any one of us who goes out to those places would actually now not feel any difference of the 4G or mobile experience that one would get in an urban area. Okay, so which means then when you mentioned about digital divide, at the infrastructure level, we're cool. Okay,
covered.
Yeah. Then for those in the very remote, at the very least now, they are able to have access to internet. Okay, so that is the difference that you'll get. So different zones may have different levels of availability, and therefore the impact may differ from one another. But the main problem, the main point is that they all have access to internet, and therefore internet no longer becomes something that that only certain people can have access to. It's highly available for everyone.
Okay, so now with more people having more access via on an internet framework or mobile network, what kind of digital activity or surplus of digital activity does MCMC anticipate with the completion of the Jendela project?
So remember I said just now, you break the digital divide at infrastructure level, then you next you actually have to break the divide at the device level. Okay, the good thing is that device penetration is fairly high. Okay, so which means people, once you have a network, you automatically know that people can have access to the network. Although there will always be a certain percentage of the population who may not have a device. Okay, so they may have to share devices. The next level of digital divide that you would expect to see is that people will then have to learn on how to use those devices. Now, this is where the biggest impact will come from. When people know how to use it, okay, people will then be creative, and internet allows people to be very creative. You can either learn more, you can either do more, and sometimes you might even be able to even sell more. Okay, so here, and this is where you expect people to do that. And once you have knowledge, the next level of activity can come in. People will learn how to do programming. People can do coding. You'll be surprised if I tell you that someone in Kemaman, okay, in Terengganu, you see Kemaman fishing village, they've got a whole good bunch of youngsters who are really good at coding. You will only associate coding with people maybe in Kuala Lumpur, in Penang, or in JB, right? Kemaman, you don't associate that.
That's right.
But because we have covered a little bit of digital divide, say in that area, now you see a new breed of people coming out. So once you're able to do coding, then you're able to do things like artificial intelligence, data analytics, and they can even do things that will optimize things like Internet of Things.
That's right. Well, it's also a marriage of having interest and passion to want to pursue these skills. Talking about skills, though, how will you how do you foresee the rate of adoption for smaller players, so entrepreneurs, businesses that are home-based, perhaps hawkers as well, who may not generally fall under the younger category, where they may need some, if you could call it, upskilling.
I believe largely that people are driven by circumstances. Okay, people will be interested because there's a need for them to be interested. We always have this argument that should we train people? Must we train people? That's feeding. That's the Malaysian way. We feed and feed and feed. Okay, but now let me put it another way around. If I throw you into the deep end, you're going to swim or you're going to sink. In the MCO, I had the opportunity, to travel down to some remote areas. Okay. I met this guy. This guy actually sells char kway teow. Okay, and he says he makes a decent living. He earns about 2,005 a month. Okay, selling char kway teow in a small town. Suddenly in the MCO, he says, I can't sell char kway teow anymore. So I asked him, how do you make a living? How do you then now manage your income? He says, people order and they come and pick my house. So, but is that good enough? He says, yeah, half of my income goes, I'm down to half of what I normally earn. So then he said, and then he found out that there was somebody was teaching him how to do videos online, at the Pusat Internet Community. So he went to this Pusat Internet Community, sat down through a bit of training, and then tried to do his own video of his stuff. And then he had his brainwave and said, instead of me making kway teow for them, I now make sauce for them to be able to do their own kway teow. All right, and then
enterprising.
So he put the sauce into this usual very simple containers.
Yeah.
Labeled it, using his name of the stall that he has, and then he did video of how to do a kway teow with his sauce.
You now have to name his stall, Doctor. Now that you are on air, you have to name his stall. But that really empowers those who are really on the ground, who have been impacted by the MCO and the pandemic. But nonetheless, it gives inspiration to us all to know that with an infrastructure in place, and having access, sky is
people
the
be
limit.
creative.
Absolutely. Yeah. We take a quick break. When we come back, more right here on The Nation Jendela.
Meili is a university student in Kuala Lumpur. She needs to visit her grandmother in her hometown next week. However, Meili has an exam scheduled at the same time. She plans to revise her lessons during the trip through online learning via video. Meili is worried about unstable internet access while traveling. Introducing Jendela, a government initiative to improve Malaysia's communications infrastructure and 4G coverage. This move will reduce the digital divide and enable cities, suburbs and rural areas to receive better quality broadband services. Jendela will be rolled out in phases. The 3G network will be gradually terminated as the 4G network is expanded to give Malaysians access to high-speed mobile lines throughout the country. With Jendela, people like Meili can enjoy uninterrupted online services all the way back to her hometown. This digital transformation will raise the people's economic status and advance the country's socio-economy progress.
You're back with us on The Nation Jendela. I'm Jessie Chahal, seated with the chairman of MCMC, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. Today we discuss driving the nation forward through connectivity and the opportunities that Jendela presents to the entire nation. Doctor, during the commercial, we talked about how businesses, small businesses, micro businesses, if you may, have really taken the opportunity, tried to rise through adversity and looked for that silver lining. And I think that is amongst the many objectives that Jendela will present to the Rakyat.
Absolutely. See, internet is a great leveler. Okay, so the fact that we provide access to internet allows people to do a lot more things, more than they could have ever thought of before. Okay, and because internet provides information, people learn more than what a teacher could teach. Okay, and therefore sometimes you have a situation where instead of the teacher asking the student now will ask the teacher. Okay, people say, okay, that's great. Okay, so hence, once you have all this, we will, as a nation, will be at a different level. Okay, the way we think, the way we behave, the way we utilize information, and we will also be creative. Sometimes people say, oh, you need to find your own idea, but your own idea may not come unless you have seen someone else's idea and then apply it to your own experience and exposure. And you might kind of come up with a slightly hybrid idea, but that hybrid is probably the best idea that may come out. Okay.
What role does MCMC play or plan to play in terms of bringing out this group of entrepreneurs or players into the digital market or digital economy?
That's okay. That's not something that we are doing in a big way. Okay, because there are many other agencies that undertake that. So what we do is we work with a lot of other agencies for them to then interact with the population that we are able to engage with. And how we engage them is actually through our Pusat Internet community. Okay, so they are there, so we bring the agencies and say, hey guys, you've got a catchment of 1,000 people here or 3,000 people here. Then we will allow the agencies to use the internet.
Do you feel these centres so far have been underutilised in the areas in which they have been set up?
If I would say out of 873, I would say easily about 60% of them are very well utilised. Another 20% moderately, and the balance, I think we can do better. Okay, so again, it's also a community thing. Sometimes you have a big population, but very few actually want to utilize that for a variety of reasons. I can't say it's just one single reason why they don't want to come. But the point here is it needs multiple parties. Okay, not just to create activities there, but there must be people who are also able to bring them to the centres.
Are these centres open during the MCO period?
Oh yeah. Okay. In fact, we've extended for those in the rural areas. We extended it to 6 p.m. The reason why we don't extend it beyond 6 is rural. So you want to make sure that you don't for security reasons.
Right.
But in the urban areas where they're located in the PPR areas, that we've extended it till 9 p.m. Okay. So in a way, we've extended it and allowed people to use it. And I keep talking about this simply because I want people to know about the Pusat Internet community and what you can do there in such a ways that it's there and it's not fully utilized.
Very quickly, what can you do if you could just tell us?
What can you do with there? Well, you can study there. You can learn new things. You get training there. How to be an entrepreneur. We'll teach you also things like how to even do e-commerce. Okay, there. And for simple things like photostating, printing of stuff, you can also do it
from the
there.
basics to the slightly more
Absolutely.
technical things.
Yeah.
Doctor, let's talk a little bit about the National Digital Policy, or NDP. The Prime Minister had revealed that the government will be launching this in the first quarter of this year, so in just a couple of weeks' time, really.
Yeah.
How will the NDP help the Jendela plan or complement Jendela?
What we are doing with Jendela is building the infrastructure, but the infrastructure is useless if it is not utilized. Okay, as I say, you need to sweat the assets, right? So the National Digital Policy provides, if you want, a policy of sorts to 1, incentivize, 2, galvanize, and 3, provide focus of what things the government should then focus on, and probably the private sector also focuses on, that will then utilize the infrastructure, that will then bring the economy to a higher level. Okay, so hence you need that. Otherwise, everybody will do their own gig. Okay, and it just doesn't work. So you don't get the whole economies of scale. So by having the National Digital Policy that the PM is about to announce fairly soon, that would actually allow us to be guided. Okay, everybody will have their own business needs, business style, or even your own lifestyle. But having this sort of policy gives us a bit of a compass that we can all then focus on, and then we can all drive the economies of scale for us to all benefit together.
Same vision and
Yeah,
mission.
absolutely.
Finally, Doctor, without much time left on the clock, but nonetheless, please share with us, how ready do you think we are as a nation to not just embrace, not just adapt, but
Yep.
adopt digital connectivity, activity, be part of the digital economy, quite literally the digital lifestyle?
Personally, I think we are ready. Okay, I think there's a lot of pent up possibilities, and once we unleash that, we will soar. Okay, and it is very important for it to be well coordinated at the policy level, so that, as I said, we get the economies of scale. And people always say that, oh, we are not ready. I don't believe so. We are really ready. Okay, and I always like to tease people. I said, in my generation, when we woke up, we didn't see the light because there was no electricity then. Okay, today kids are born, and the first thing they do, they don't talk. They do this, okay, because it's intuitive for them to basically swipe the screen. Okay, and I think we are totally ready.
Absolutely. A digital nation
Yes.
is what we will become in the very near future. Well, that has been my discussion right here on The Nation Jendela with Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC. We've talked about driving the nation forward through connectivity, digital connectivity and accessibility made available for each and every Malaysian across the nation. Jessie Chahal signing off. Till the next time, take care, stay safe and stay home.
I'm Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of MCMC. For the latest on the National Digital Network Plan, watch The Nation Jendela every Thursday only on Bernama TV.